WSN Injury Insider, the great Dr. Jeff Pierce, who has a very special guest with him today, Michael Blazek. Michael's going to be running the Boston Marathon
Monday.
Yes, sir.
Are you kidding me? Doc, you do have some interesting people that you know. Like, these aren't stories.
It's not
now.
just Braylon and Mac.
This is like real life interesting people.
Maz we won't treat. We refuse to take him in the office right now. It's too hard. I just go on success rates. So Michael's been, obviously Nicole, his sister, has been involved with athletes.
Shout out Nicole, by the way.
And Michigan Sports and Spine and all that. And she told me about her brother, likes running around trails and all that kind of stuff. So just this story and kind of what we did. And we kind of wanted to bring in, because it is that time of the year where people are starting to get outside and trying to put more miles on and stuff like that, kind of do a comparison of what he's doing to train for the Boston Marathon, which is huge. And we'll pull out the stats as we talk, but kind of more of a broader thing is what we need to do for the common person like you guys that want to get out and start exercising like I've been telling you to do.
Michael, in the meantime, what has the last couple of weeks and months been like as you prepare for this? And have you ever run the Boston Marathon?
No, so I haven't. This will be my first Boston Marathon, and that's why Monday's so exciting, right? ESPN2 at 10 o'clock in the morning. I think 9:30 is actually when coverage starts. But my training for the Boston Marathon has been the last 16 weeks, which usually you do a fall marathon. Everybody talks about Chicago in the fall. A spring marathon's quite different, right? Because you're running in January, February, those grueling months when it's so dark outside, and you know here in Michigan it's black ice all over the place. So you got to be careful, but it's been a grind. Yeah, so been training for the last 16 weeks, and now as we're a couple days out, really it's been just training the body, bringing down the mileage though this last week and a half, and as a taper, and yeah, getting ready for Monday. So,
and for you, Doc, just some of these. You can't just go out there and start preparing for a marathon. There's a method to doing that, right?
I mean, you can see some of his stuff. I mean, there's a method of how you warm up, how you cool down, how you get through it, and how you recover. Recovery is huge for all these individuals. I mean, Michael, it's mileage. What kind of mileage? Like my kind of questions when I get these patients, how many miles are you doing a week? How are you preparing? What are you doing for CrossFit? What are you doing for the other stuff? You're talking about Michael, who's at a whole different level, right? He's at either they call it elite, ultra, pro, all that. And actually in Michigan, we can bring up the stats. There's a lot of these guys running around. So my big joke is, how many runners do we have from Michigan?
There's about 7 in the pro field on Monday. So
7 in the pro field out of 60?
About 60, 63 guys.
So Michigan's representing 1/8 of the Boston Marathon.
Yeah.
And we're considered what number in the fattest states in the country?
Yes, 7 in Michigan, 63 men in the pro field.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exciting. A lot.
Shout out Nicole again.
Yeah. It's quite interesting, right? You don't think of Michigan almost as a long distance running empire, but it really has a lot of respect across the United States.
Yeah, it does. What is it, Slow Stroll? I tried. There's a running group downtown. I can't think of what day it is, but I told them, I said, I'll call it Slow Stroll. I'll get on the bike. 2 questions. We talked a little bit about the marathon outside. I impressed you, I think, with my Greek mythology knowledge of how you get to 26.2 miles. But I always ask, like, what would make one run 26.2 miles and be excited to do it? It's a very serious question.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the personal challenge, for real, right? You talk a lot about you go through, obviously, grade school, through college, through your professional life, your professional goals. There's always something greater outside of that, right? We all have our daily lives, but there's also a different passion and something about just testing yourself to the ultimate limit. And that's, of course, we have bowling, right? We've got basketball, we've got football, all of those things. But in a lot of ways, that doesn't fit into your schedule into everyday life. So as an endurance athlete, you say, how can I test myself to my fullest athletic ability? A lot of that is endurance sports. So it's a lot of fulfillment and just challenging myself and trying to better myself, whatever that means, right? I'm 32 years old. I'm almost to my probably my prime in marathon running. But after that, I don't know. Who knows? But it's just that constant pursuit.
All right, here we go, Blazek. You mentioned it's about constant pursuit of being the best version of yourself that you can. Well, was it 2:16:43?
Yeah.
That should pass the time?
Yeah.
What are you going to try to do this Monday?
Man, so Boston, I don't know if you know this, but Boston's a pretty hilly course. It's a very tricky course. The first about 10 miles or so are actually really downhill. You got to be careful. You can't be too eager because you're going to burn up your quads. The second half of the race is all uphill and a battle between rolling hills. So between mile 15 and 22, it's just about 3 or 4 pretty sizable hills that could burn you up. And if you went out too hot, and by the time you get to those hills, you got to be careful. So typically, Boston Marathon isn't a PR, your best kind of marathon course. It's more so survival of the fittest and kind of that, being there all the way to the last 5 miles, because that's when it finally starts to even out, and you're like, man, I just bombed downhill. I'm fighting uphill. Now I got to see what's left in the tank.
Well, you're in the top 60, so I'm going 214. That's what I.
There you go. Okay, I'll take that all day.
Doc, last question for me is for you. The street. Now, I'm an individual. I do not run on the street because of my knees. I've had knee surgeries, and I know it's not good for me. I've been told that by doctors. What is it like running on the street for Michael? Like, is it bad for his knees? Is it bad for the body? Tell me about it, Doc.
I mean, running surfaces, like the way they train, they have to train on the similar surfaces. Like he's saying, the hills and things like that. And there's flatter courses. I think New York's a little flatter. Chicago's a little flatter.
Chicago's very
for
flat.
For sure. Yeah. That's where you're seeing better numbers. But the shoe wear has really taken a lot out of it. Like when you were told all that was a couple of years ago. The shoe wear has helped tremendously, but it's also, you have to be proper what shoes you're wearing, right? So at his level, to last that long, 26 miles, 2 hours of running, all that friction forces, things like that, the shoe itself makes a big difference. Like a lot of people are like, I have foot issues, I have ankle issues. A lot of times it comes from that shoe wear. And the shoe wear can lead to issues with your knees and your hips. So it starts there. Not that I'm broadcasting anything. I know you. I don't know if you're sponsored by your shoe, but I know you put it out there. But I mean, Brooks is a big deal around here. They're
Is
a big
it Nike?
Yeah, well, I currently
I see a Nike
Nike's
swoosh
one.
there,
I
that's
wear
why.
Saucony. I also wear Adidas.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah.
How often do you get a new pair of shoes?
Yeah, so I rotate them about every 400 miles, and that's crucial. So if you want to get into running,
Jesus Christ.
yeah, if you want to get into running, right? We live in concrete jungles a lot. It's hard to get on soft surfaces. Of course, there's parks nearby that you can go to. It's a lot, but if you're going out the door every day, it's so crucial to rotate your shoes out every 400 miles.
Actually, 400's a lot.
Yeah.
So he's an efficient runner. I mean, we usually talk about 200 to 300 miles. So if he's more efficient, that means he's wearing better on his shoes. But a recreational runner, like he says, he rotates 2 shoes. We usually want to rotate 4 pairs of shoes if they're running every day. But the people that are doing, the 20 miles a week, they're okay with 2 pairs of shoes because they're not doing it.
Yep.
But shoe wear and that, healthy. If he gets a blister on one of his, on one part of his foot, he's out. That's just crazy. So it's crazy.
It's also about how much weight bearing in the foam in the shoe. So obviously, running shoes are pretty expensive nowadays, but they're made with high quality foam. If they sit on the shelf for too long, or if you're running for mile after mile, over time that foam sits there and it's supposed to rebound, right? But if you haven't, you put in 400 miles, 500 miles, that foam isn't responding as much as it once was. Yeah. So that's why it's so crucial to rotate those out, because even the slightest thing, your ankle's rotating in just a little too much. You're doing a knee knock. It's such a trigger of other events that kind of is a domino that could cause, I've got that hip pain again, or man, I feel it in my lower back. That's why some of the equipment is pretty big.
So over the last couple of weeks, I started going for walks. I take the dog for a walk. It's about a 4-mile walk. And I feel like the way my quads feel, my knees, my legs, my back. Walk me through, if you could, what your body goes through.
We're trying to relate to the rest of the viewers right now.
Like I'm trying to understand what your body as a marathon runner goes through early, middle of the race, end of the race. What are you feeling? What are your concerns during? Because the cardio aspect of it you have.
Yep.
Now, that would probably be one of the biggest aspects for a guy like me, the cardio of it. You probably have that cardio just with all your training, but what's the body going through?
So a lot of times there's a big rule of thumb. It's called the 10-10-10 rule. The first 10 miles is a phase of the race where it honestly shouldn't feel like racing. You should be excited, adrenaline rush, right? Then you have the next 10 miles, from miles 10 to 20. That's where things kind of get serious. You're locking into race pace. Yeah, you're working, right? You're working through those hills, and then the last 10K, right, the 6.2 miles. So that's the last part where it's pretty much all guts, all heart. It's kind of what you have left in the tank. So usually those last, if I've run it properly, I've ran out in California where I ran 2:16:43, and it's been 10 miles, and that last 10K is really, if I was in the right position, starting to chop down my mileage and my pace. But that's where legs are starting to go, hamstrings are starting to fire off a little bit. You got to be a little bit careful so you don't tweak something. But yeah, that's usually the 10-10-10 rule.
I fell in love with the watch and the pace setting. Like looking at the watch. I went to the University of Michigan. I ran track up there, and like Nathan Brannon and some of those Nick Willis, those guys that were elite. How often are you checking your miles, checking your pace, checking your heartbeat, see where you're at? How often are you doing that?
It's funny you say that. I constantly remind myself to not look at it so much, because then you get in your head. And especially in a course like Boston where it's hilly, your pace is just a variable. It's going up and down, right? Usually on a flat course like a Chicago, you can lock into a pace and just be in there all day long. So I try to maybe look at it every mile what my split is. A lot of guys actually chunk it up to just every 5K, every 3.2 miles, because then they can just chunk it up kind of and look at it in that pace setting. But for Boston, it's a little bit different because you're going up, you're rolling down. You got to be careful.
Too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, he talked about that second 10K. Baz told me someone in the chat wanted to know about that runner's high. That's kind of what we're talking about. It's you get out there, you're excited, but that second, that mid-level, you're kind of in that runner's, you're exhausting it.
Yeah.
And at the end, you're like, I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm going to get to the end.
You got any marathons under your belt, Doc?
Yeah, my bicycle.
Okay.
No, the other big
That'd
thing
be
is
good too. I mean, hell.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go all day on a bicycle. Run, I had to run. You know, my big running was I ran with the Olympic torch. We'll pull that out someday.
I gotta say, you always have it's a great random fact. It's a great random fact. I gotta see the footage.
I was the man of the day for the Olympics in 2002. But anyhow, I want to talk about his Olympics. He did qualify for the Olympic trial because of his
2:16. Yeah,
his 2:16. He qualified for that.
Yeah.
So that is big accolade that he did down in
Orlando. Yeah,
Disney,
last February. It was pretty exciting. Yeah.
Talking to Michael Blazek, he is going to run on Monday in the Boston Marathon. It's his first time running the Boston Marathon. 7 runners from the state of Michigan will be competing in the pro field, which will consist of 63 men. Dr. Jeff Pierce is with him. Michael, what would your advice be to anybody who has maybe dreamt of running a marathon that just says, you know, that's something I can't do. I wish I could do it. Where would you start?
Yeah. So you got to be in it for the long run. And what
no
I mean,
pun intended.
No pun intended. Yeah, very crafty there. But how many people have you met that are like, man, I didn't do anything, but then my girlfriend or so-and-so just invited me out to a 10K or a half marathon, so I just went and did it. And what usually follows after that, man, I'm so sore. I had such a bad experience. I'm never doing that again, right? Yeah. So if you want to get into running, you have to start slow. After college, I took a break from running. When I got back into it for marathon training, I said, look, if I'm going to do this right, it's going to be a 1.5-year process till I can even race or do a half marathon. So just take it slow, right? It's you're running every 2 days a week. You're running then 3 days a week. You're doing, you're just increasing your time and mileage. So just take it slow and build into your cardio. That's the biggest thing. We talk about our cardio as an engine, right? Over time, you're building that engine, right? You're replacing the oil. You're getting it super, super fit, so then you can actually race well, not just go out there and try to survive. So that'd be my biggest thing.
But you also have to add in, which you maybe it's the muscle strength. Like I always say, I've picked on runners, so we'll pick on them here. Running cannot be your only sport. I mean, you become so thin. That's why these big guys from Kenya, there's no muscle on them. So it may be good for one sport, but sport specific. But you got to weight train for protection of your joints. You talked about joint stability and stuff like that. That has to be part of the workout. Would you agree? I mean,
I would.
You want to do. You worry about muscle balance. You worry about not running when you're hurt, not changing your mechanics when you're hurt.
Oh yeah.
You gotta have good mechanics. You gotta look at what surfaces you're running on, and go from there.
Yeah, that's why I didn't bring it up because it's like, man, I don't want to do it because I'm like, man, I just want to go out there and run fast, right? But it's such a key ingredient is getting in the gym. That's one thing that I added for Boston is it's going to be more demanding than ever, right? I need to get in at least twice a week. So it's working on my hip flexors. I've got a really weak right hip flexor, so I've got to strengthen that. So it's Yeah, you don't even have one.
Matt, for those
Yeah.
of you that didn't hear Matt, he just said he didn't have one.
It's core strength, right? It's working. It's some hex bar deadlifts. It's some kettlebell kickstands, just to strengthen everything from the quad to the hip flexors, knowing that the hills are going to be more demanding. And that's something, because you're like, man, I just did my run for like an hour and a half. Now I got to go to the gym for like an hour.
Michael, this might be a silly question, but I imagine during your workouts, like when you're preparing for this, you're kind of by yourself, probably.
Yeah.
What's it like? 31,000 plus participants.
Yeah.
Does the traffic of the runners get in the way of you, and that how does that play out for you?
Well, look, there's probably a lot of Michiganders that are headed out to Boston, and kudos to you guys for making it this far, because that is an achievement in itself. And navigating the course in itself is obviously mayhem at times. But I am very fortunate being a part of that pro field that we actually get to start a little bit earlier than everybody. So
Right.
us 63 guys will start at 9:37 or so. And we get to start 20 minutes before everybody else. So, in quite honesty, yes, I'm running with 32, but it's kind of like I'm running with like 65 guys. It's one of the smallest marathons I've ever been a part of.
And
But
then afterwards, do they give you a bowl of chowder?
I think we'll get a
That's
San
the
Adams
idea.
crew, that's for sure. Yeah. That's
I eat chowder. No, but you brought that up. I mean, a lot of it, like for triathletes, like the biggest thing is in the water for triathletes. So, yeah, I mean, and some people are clashing. They don't like anybody right next to them, too, especially when you train all by yourself
Absolutely.
all the time.
You kind of get in the zone, and that's pretty cool for us is we get, it's called elite bottles. I don't know if you've heard about this, but pros, they actually set out 6 bottles for you along the race course with your nutrition. So I usually have something like, it's called Scratch or Morton is what it is, and it's just a way to get carbs into your system. Because what usually happens is your glucose levels only last about 90 minutes. That's why when people bonk in a marathon, right, it's usually about the 20-mile mark. But it's also
or they cramp.
or they're cramping. They're not hydrating. You don't have the carbs in there or the sodium. So that's why you have to take gels or you have to take bottles. So that's why I'm fortunate to be a part of that elite company. So I'll have bottles out there. I can just snag and guzzle down some carbs and hopefully make it through the rest.
I wish we had the Seinfeld thing where Kramer hands out the coffee.
That's Maz.
Well, you got to ask Maz about that.
yeah,
Maz knows every Seinfeld episode there is.
Before we get you out of here, tell me about the Assistant Director of External Engagement and Corporate Optics.
Yeah.
What does that entail? What do you do there?
Yeah, what I do. So I work for Corporate Optics. We're a corporate communications and event company. So yeah, we put on a lot of
Who
events.
runs that company?
I work with my sister.
Go.
It's a family business. Us and Steve Simmons. So a lot of respect for my team. But yeah, if you've got a company out there that's looking to put on a corporate event, a meeting of any size, we're your people. So I help organize those.
That's awesome. You got it.
And he'll never say he's exhausted working. So
There we
Hey,
go.
Michael,
How
keep
could he?
us. Maybe we'll have Nicole do it, but keep us up to date on what happens on Monday.
Sure.
Love to let everybody know on Monday. What happened.
that's why I asked him. I said, "You want to do it before the run or
Yeah,
after?"
right.
Let's do it before.
He says, "Let's do it before."
That's fantastic. Well, thank you both for being here, all three of you. Sister Nicole's off camera right now. She's tremendous as well. Dr. Pierce, you rock.
I'm trying.
Michael.
Try and keep it real here.
Michael, you run.
There we go.
Break a leg. Well, I don't know what the saying is
Right.
in my business. It's break a leg, but we'll say.
No.
Appreciate it.
What do you say? Good luck.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
guess absolutely.
Can't wait to
Boston
watch.
Marathon,
Go
no
ahead,
doubt
say it.
about it.
Wait, we
10,
just
10,
got a
10.
bit from Maz saying that the Seinfeld runners from Trinidad, John Paul.
John Paul, he overslept.
Yeah, he overslept.
Yeah. It was the
Okay.
volume. Yeah, the volume.
That's
You're
great.
not the only one to miss an alarm before. I'm just
WSN Injury Insider, Michigan Sports and Spine.com. Tigers giving it another go tonight, Braylon. Maybe Riley Green will get a hit tonight.
all right. I wrote this down somewhere, but I got excited into this conversation. Anyway, I was going to say player A and player B. If you look at Riley Green's stats, you would think it's Javi Baez. If you look at Javi Baez's stats, you would think it was Riley Green. 28, 30 strikeouts for Riley Green. Come on, Riley. Get a hit today, baby.
Go, Riley.
Let today be Riley's day.
Hey,
So,
Spenny,
We-
close us out today,
We can
baby.
talk about mental stuff for baseball players.
We'll do that
time.
next week.
I like it.
Attention
Javi
sports
found
fans,
this
don't
out.
miss out on Expert Sports Injury Insight with Dr. Jeff Pierce of Michigan Sports and Spine. Join Dr. Pierce every Tuesday during Big D Energy and Thursdays during Ermanni and Edwards, where he offers top top-notch injury advice. Trust the guy that I trust. Dr. Jeff Pierce is here to keep you in the game and performing at your best. For more information, visit MichiganSportsAndSpine.com or call 248-426-9944.